Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Coarse Grind Podcast. This is episode number 18. 18. Yes, we are finally old enough to buy cigarettes. Not that we would anymore, because they cost about 3 times as much as they used to cost in college. Sorry, Mom. I was a pack-a-day smoker back then, and sorry to any of you who might not have known that. So this is episode number 18. Welcome back. Glad you're listening. My name is Sean Rossler, your guide, your host to all things culinary for the next 30, 45, depends on how many times I fill my beer, but maybe even 60 minutes. You know, 9 times out of 10, the interviews on this show, the podcast, tend to go, the route of chef or, long-seasoned cook. And, it wasn't ever really planned that way, but it's just the way it's kind of unfolded over the years. And I really can't believe at this point I'm saying over the years. Again, as I've mentioned several times over, thought it was going to be 2 or 3 episodes and hang it up, and now we're looking at episode number 18. So that's remarkable in and of itself. But with all of that said, the opportunities occasionally present themselves to me to branch out a little bit. They're few and far between, but they're super rewarding. And this evening's guest is a perfect example of that. She's a coworker of both mine and my wife's, and tonight's guest has an amazing alter ego outside the confines of what we would consider the 9-to-5 grind. She's one of the most amazing and dedicated Pampered Chef dealers ever that I've had the pleasure of meeting, and while you could certainly specialize in such material and not really give 2 shits about the culinary arts themselves, she not only sells it, but she uses it, and she makes it look almost effortless. Without being haughty, without being tawdry, without being anything like that, she makes it look good. Her sales and culinary expertise are rivaled only by her personality, and I'm honored to have her on the show this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, my guest this evening, the greatest culinary salesperson I've ever met for Pampered Chef or had the pleasure of slinging a drink for, an all-around fellow foodie, Ms. Shelly Lee. Shelly, how we doing?
Hello, I'm great. How are you, Sean?
If I were any better, vitamins would be taking me, but we won't get into that. This is about you. This is about you. So, long story short, Shelly, I'll give you the overview of how the show goes, and we'll take it from there. We have 3 sections, starters, mains, and afters. The starters are going to be about where you came from, how it is you kind of came up to be doing what you're doing. Mains are going to be what exactly it is you're doing. And finally, afters, they're a little bit more out of the box, a little bit more off-the-cuff questions. But as I've told 17 guests so far, never sustained an injury, and I don't expect it tonight. So hopefully you'll go along for the ride.
Yes, I'm very excited to be with you tonight.
Right on, right on. So, Shelly Lee, tell me about where you grew up eating. The house, the environment. Tell me.
Oh boy. Well, how much time do we have, did you say?
We got plenty. I'm not paying anybody.
Tonight.
The lights are on no matter where I go. So
I grew up in a home full of food, which is awesome. My mother and especially my one grandmother, my mother's mother, doing lots and lots of cooking. Every night dinner on the table, as I like to tell everybody, for those who might listen in, Sean, sometime that knew my father, we were old school in the Lee household, which meant, full course meals, made from scratch, including all the baked goods, which we'll get into that because that's really where my heart is, in the sugar, the white refined sugar.
Yes.
So anyways, but yeah, growing up here locally in Bloomsburg, had a great life and a lot of time in the kitchen with my mom. Surprisingly, growing up, if you were to ask her, she'd tell you really wasn't interested too much in preparing food or helping out, rather just eating it. So
right.
Over the years, things kind of progressed and it was quite some span until I got into being involved with my business and going out and cooking for folks. But definitely had a childhood full of great tasting, all types of foods, all types of desserts. Really couldn't have asked for a better childhood and growing up. Yeah. So, perhaps that is what formed who I am today. I'm sure it is, in some aspect. But back then, I helped out on occasion, but didn't have the interest of which I have today. So
the landscape was painted, but there weren't the wagons and the livestock and everything on it quite yet. But the landscape was there. Coming up in that environment, then, how were you as an eater? You have an advantage as an interviewee in that my wife and I, and our 3 children, and that children's eating predilections can be quite the pain in the ass or quite the benefit at the same time. How were you in that regard?
I was bad. I'm right there with the kids. I was bad. I was picky. I was snoopy. I was snobby. You ask my mother, she'll tell you it all. I liked all the foods that, were quote unquote bad, for you. But, trying to get me to eat a tossed salad or something as simple and as stupid as that, it was very difficult. So, it wasn't that things weren't presented. I just was snoopy. However, thankfully I grew out of that too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I grew up and grew out of that. So.
Well, absolutely. It's our oldest, and I've mentioned him before, and actually in one Easter egg on one of the episodes, Wesley has been on this podcast before. He's a 7-year-old who eats sushi. So, but I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop, though. I'm like, wait a minute, if he's eating this now, he's going to turn into a derelict later, Everybody I've heard of, was like, oh, I really didn't like this, but then I grew up and I loved everything, so I'm waiting for him to shut it down. You have clearly followed the path of didn't like it early on, but look at all that you can do with it now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I have 4 nephews, and my youngest nephew, who is 9, he is similar to Wesley in the fact that, he would eat things that you would never dream a 3, 4, 5-year-old child would eat. I mean, a full salad, and loves to eat cherry tomatoes for a snack. I mean, that's just wrong. I mean, it was like cookies and chips and all kinds of stuff that we weren't to be eating all the time, or the things that we were snacking on. But he's always been a good eater. So like you said, you wonder what's going to happen down the road with him. But yeah, the rest of the boys, I would say, were similar to me, that it's taken some time to get used to some things, but he would eat, Alexander would eat anything pretty much you put in front of him. Right. So it was kind of wild.
Right on.
Because we weren't used to that.
Yeah. So, okay, so you were picky, you were snoopy, granted. When you look back, is there any childhood food that you can think of that gives you like a pain in your heart? Like you either haven't had it in so long, or you've tried to recreate it and you can't. It's just one of those indicative foods of childhood that you can't get back and you want really bad.
Well, I can't think of anything right off the cuff that would fit that mold. Trying to, like you say, recreate perhaps something that I had as a kid, that now I would like to make as an adult. So nothing really sticks in my mind for that. But one thing I will share, Sean, with you is there is something that there's different things that certainly take me back to my childhood and remind me of growing up. And like I mentioned, my father passed away actually this month 8 years ago. So we have lots of good memories of time at the dinner table, and laughing and whatnot. But one thing that is big in the Lee family, and this is a little strange perhaps to some, but for those who know us know it's a big deal, is we never had pancakes as kids. What we would think of as traditional pancakes. We always had buckwheat cakes. Perhaps you know what they are.
I do. I do know what they are. Yep. Okay,
so around here in Northeast Pennsylvania, you hear about it. You hear about buckwheat cakes, you see them at events and whatnot, but, all of our friends thought we were weird and a tad strange. But that is what my father wanted. That is what he grew up on. So that is what I grew up on, and I really didn't know too much about regular pancakes, if you will, because I was busy eating these buckwheat cakes. Well, to this day, my 2 brothers and I, we're all local, and our families, not quite everybody, but most everybody, we still eat them, and it's a big deal when my mother stirs these up. She might as well stand out on her porch and ring a bell, because we come and then it's fighting over who gets there first and who's going to get the most. And so it's silly, but it's around food, and it's something we totally were raised on. And you can't just go out into any restaurant around here. Now, there are some, mind you, but you can't go out to any restaurant and just order these things up. And then it's like, are they sour? Are they too sour? Right. And, you know, Mom still makes them the best.
Yeah.
In fact, she just made them for us the other week. And it's like, if somebody's not going to be home and she says she's going to make them, which she doesn't make them very often. We get them a couple times a year, probably. Like, it's like, well, you have to change the date of that because I can't come. Like, I have to be somewhere. You have to change that. Like, I can't be there. I'm doing them this morning. That's when I have time, because it's a process. It's a process to make these things. And it is on my list, right? I have a bucket list of things that I need to learn from my mother yet. That's one of a couple of things that she makes that I have yet to take on. So I haven't tried them yet, Sean, to make them on my own, to recreate them as they were when I was a kid. I'm still letting my mom do that. She's going to be, 76, so she's still making the buckwheat cakes.
Decent.
But I figure I'm going to have to learn at some point, because someday she won't be here with us, and I'm sure my brothers will be pestering me for them.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, here's the beauty in that response, and it's not just because I know you. When you think of pancakes, that's one of the first things you let your kids even touch. Let's be honest. I mean, pancakes are that level. However, when you hold them in that degree of reverence, clearly they have a place in your life. And how phenomenal is that? I mean, for anybody who's not had the pleasure of a buckwheat cake, it is different. It is very different. You know, it kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. And now, being in your presence, Shell, I don't feel comfortable trying to explain it. Cliff Notes version, how would you describe the difference between a standard issue and a buckwheat cake?
Well, for sure they're thinner. Okay, so just in appearance, you know, when we think of a regular pancake, perhaps we think fluffy. You know, it has a little bit of, thickness to it. When we think about
it really doesn't have the leavening that a standard flour.
Correct.
Would, correct? Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely thin, appearance-wise, and when they bake out, they look different too. It definitely has, I'm not even sure the right word of how to describe it, whether or not it's a grainier look, where a pancake to me is usually nice and brown on both sides. But definitely appearance-wise, first and foremost, it looks different. Secondly, as far as taste is concerned, yes, they can be sour. Ours are sour, but like some places we've been, and I won't mention any on here, they've been like ultra sour that like turn you off sour.
Yeah,
you know
they,
I mean? Like,
they basically try to ratchet up the one element that truly makes it different, and they do it too much.
Yeah, and buckwheat flour goes into these, hence the name. It's very difficult to find the flour around here, to the tune that my mom, now she found a place to get it, but it's like you search high and low for it. And it's definitely a process to make these, and that one that I can't even explain because I said it's on my list to figure it out, but to the effect that she gets up at like dark 30 to be stirring these down and whatever she does. I don't even know. And then we have a special container that they go into called the Penguin. Do you know what I'm referring to? The container to house these buckwheat cakes to keep them hot. Have you ever seen this before?
The Penguin? No.
Yes.
Well, maybe.
It's silver. It's round. It has a lid on it. It keeps hot things hot, cold things cold. Maybe it's like Dark Ages Pampered Chef from back in the...
Hey, there you go.
But the penguin is another family thing that's tied to the buckwheat cakes, and it's a container, and like I said, it is metal, almost like a stainless look with a lid, and has handles on it, even though it's round. It perfectly fits, like the cakes perfectly fit in there, and they're stacked up, and we all have them in our families. Like, it was like they got passed down when my grandmothers died. I, of course, didn't get one because my oldest brother took my grandmother's. My cousin took my other grandmother's. So it's like, hey, like, we all need these. So then it's like, hey, we're on eBay. We're on an auction. So I do have a penguin, and now we've gifted some of my friends with penguins. So that's another joke on the side. It's like, hey, do you have a penguin? Do you have a penguin to keep your stuff in? To keep your buckwheat cakes, to keep your ice cubes cold. So,
nice.
I tell you, we have some, like I said, we have some history here in the Lees, for some of the way we rolled with food. But that's just one story that particularly comes to mind for me as a kid growing up. And like I said, I need to learn how to do these.
Well, and I think if anybody's going to, it's definitely going to be you. I don't think there's any question whatsoever that
Correct.
You've got that on lockdown. And see,
Correct.
and see, just to pull the curtain back a little bit on the wizard here, Shelly and I were talking before we started recording about how, I've had 17 episodes prior to this, and most of them have been Top Chef or this, that, and the other thing, and is it going to be as high a profile? The high profile on this podcast has never been the question, never been the topic. It's been about the food that makes your heart ache. And the buckwheat pancake, the freaking buckwheat pancake now, like, I am never going to look at one of those again the same way. I'm going to have almost a reverence to it. And I'm going to call Shelly. I'm going to be like, Shelly, I had buckwheat pancakes. They sucked. They were too sour. I'm going to level with you. I'm going to tell you. And one of these days, I think I have to have them. But that's the man, if there was ever a point illustrated over 18 episodes, it is just that. You can take your truffle butter foam over foie and throw it out the window. Talk to me about the buckwheat pancake that makes you think of your relatives. And that means a million times more to, I think, anybody with a culinary heart. And clearly, Shelly, your heart is exactly there. Now, see, springboarding off of that a little bit, you mentioned a couple influences. I have to wonder, who is your greatest culinary influence who brought you to where you are today?
Oh, geez. Well, I don't know if there's one in particular, but I would definitely just say, Sean, I'm sure it stems back to my mom and my grandmother, her mother. I mean, that's who I watched cook. That's who, my mom was making our food. My grandmother was always good for holiday meals and whatnot. But, I really did get exposed to a lot of kinds of foods. So, I guess I would have to just defer back to them directly. I mean, it's what I know. I cook some things for sure, just like my mother cooks them. Maybe not quite as well, but, recipe sharing and tip sharing over the years. But definitely I would say probably those two gals for sure.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And, it's not necessarily the, hey, I went to culinary school and, I became a chef moment. But I have a feeling there was a moment along your timeline that you thought food is more important than just this preparation, consumption, continue.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
When was that? Do you have a moment that you necessarily looked at it and went, hey, you know what? This is pretty cool. I want to do this with it.
Yeah, so yes, I went on to college, and yes, I lived out on my own, and yes, I was making quote-unquote bad food. You know what I mean? I didn't really know how to cook. I mean, I had watched, but I hadn't taken lessons, let's say, from my mother, because I'd never really showed a whole lot of interest. Well, Fast forward, okay, so I guess I won't reveal my age tonight, but fast forward into
29, go ahead.
29, okay, that's good. 29 and holding. So I have to tell you that my interest in the kitchen really moved towards sugar. And when I say sugar, I mean baked goods and the art and design of the baked good. Probably stem from the fact that I have a background in design. Some like to call me artsy fartsy, if you will. And hey, I love cake and cookies and brownies and whatnot. So I started dabbling a little bit, I'd say probably 12, 13 years ago. Once I had a kitchen that was, a little larger than your typical little apartment kitchen, and I bought a house and started experimenting, if you will, with making cakes and whatnot, and was exposed to, we know we're a university here in town, and I got exposed to some cake classes and some cake decorating classes. At the time I was in my previous full-time job, not the job that I'm with you and Greta, but and it did not allow me to take any kind of classes, just because my schedule wouldn't allow. And I always said, this is on my bucket list. I want to learn how to, do cake decorating. This looks like a lot of fun. I love to eat cake. I mean, what could be better, right? So I went into this whole cake decorating, and had a really great teacher, and she's local. And I call her my friend, and I still call her my teacher, and took 3 courses and learned how to make all sorts of things on cakes, how to make frosting from scratch, how to make cakes from scratch. And so definitely, Linda Hill, who was my teacher, she was an inspiration to me as well, from that aspect. The design part of it totally had me hooked. And I was like, hey, this is awesome. I get to create stuff and plus eat it, 'cause I love all this stuff. So, and I found, strange enough, that when I started baking things, right, and taking them and sharing them at work or with you, everybody just always was smiling and happy and whatnot. So I thought, hey, I'm onto something here pretty good. So I would say that was probably 12, 13 years ago. I started dabbling in that. So definitely didn't start in the food, dinner preparation, that type of stuff. It definitely started in the more desserts, and learning and practicing, and it got pretty good that, I would do cakes for friends and family on the side for fun, and could freehand I might look at a picture, but could freehand designs right onto a cake, and thought that was pretty cool. I have a lot of pictures of my work. I haven't been doing that as much lately, but so yeah, I would say definitely started with that, the interest of the kitchen, Yeah. Yes, the seed had been planted.
Right.
Many, many moons ago. I just really didn't grab hold and spend as much time next to the stove next to my mother as I should have, I'm sure.
Right,
so
right. Well, and hindsight, that's always 20/20. So
correct.
That's going to be what it's going to be. But the more and more this is unraveling, Shell, the more and more your humility pre-interview is crumbling in front of my eyes, because you're talking to me about hand piping a cake, just freehand. Come on.
Yep.
Come on. Okay. Yeah, the humility's gone. All right, we're out the window with that then. We're going to move on. So, cool. So that's where you came from, culinarily, epicureanly, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about where you're at now. And,
So,
I reference Pampered Chef Consultant, fine and dandy. But in your day-to-day, like when you cook, when you cook for shows that you do, before I even go into the next question, let me just kind of put out in front of you here, like, how is it that you work with Pampered Chef? What exactly is that?
so the Pampered Chef, in a nutshell, and I'll just give you just a brief background and how I got connected with a Pampered Chef. I had decided, that I was going to make a job change to where I'm at today, full time, and decided to explore some opportunities, right, to make a little extra income. And this is basically what I tell folks at my show. So if any of my folks chime in here and start and listen into your podcast, they'll know that this is what I say at my shows. We talk about in 30 seconds or less, really how did we get started. So definitely was not a chef, as I've already pointed that out clearly. But I definitely felt that I had, we'll say, the gift of gab, right? Because that's what my boyfriend is now saying all the time. I have the gift of gab. And like to sell, like people, like talking with people. And I had a few products from the Pampered Chef, a couple of staple items, if you will, a piece of stoneware and a batter bowl and a couple of things. And so I thought, and I personally had shows over the years, and I thought, hey, this is something I think, that I could do. I could make some extra money. So I took a leap of faith and joined in 2004. I'll be celebrating my 11th anniversary, June 1st, working for and with the Pampered Chef. Pampered Chef in itself came around in 1980, so we're 35 years old this year and not slowing down at all. But we do have a mission statement with our company, basically for us to use our God-given talents as individuals, and to use our skills to the full potential to help others, their families, other consultants, the company, and basically by getting, good meals on the table, enhancing your quality of your family life, all by providing great tools. And we also, of course, provide recipes, as you know, I'll talk a minute about, what I'm cooking at shows. And we're highly supported by our home office. We're located out of essentially the Chicago area. So, we're here to get people back around tables. I think you can agree, Sean, that over the years, as of late, I'm sure people are not at their tables as much as what they used to be.
Yeah, obviously, going into homes, it's hard. Gret and I have the 3 boys, and Gret works the schedule of an operations manager times 3, and it's not every night, but when we can, it's important to put asses in seats around the table.
Right.
And very few people do that because they think it's too much work. But I'm sure you can speak to not only it not being too much work, but it actually causing more difficulty.
Right. So, the premise is you still can eat well at home before you go and, let's say go out to dinner. Not saying going out to dinner isn't a good thing, because it is, but I'm talking more like fast meals, grabbing things and eating on the fly. We basically feature a lot of recipes that are, quick and easy, $2 to $3 a serving, 6 to 9 ingredients, 30 minutes or less on the table. I always say we have a cookbook 29 minutes to dinner, that we're 1 minute quicker than somebody else, if you follow me. And then I always get to chuckle at shows because we're 29 minutes to dinner, not 30. So, anyway, when I go out to shows, and basically, as you were asking me, where are things at right now? When I do a home show, I'm basically going out, using our products, our biggest groupings, of course, are stones and cookware and knives, quality products, guarantees in place. I mean, our cookware has a lifetime guarantee. So I always have to say to people, great reason to think about joining the team, great reason to think about having your own show. It's definitely an investment item, right? Our cookware's so good that you could essentially get it, pass it down. And I just alluded to the fact that I'm coming up on my 11th anniversary. So what was going to be, Sean, a 1, maybe 2 year stint of, let's just say it and get it over with right now, shaking spoons, because I'm a spoon shaker. That's what my friends say. Not my fellow consultants or my company, but
Gotcha.
I'm a spoon shaker. Where am I shaking my spoons at tonight?
Right.
It has morphed into something so much bigger than I could have ever imagined with this company. It's a wonderful company to be affiliated with, and hence why I have stayed around. So the food we cook is great. It tastes good, fresh ingredients, and guess what? Everybody can do it. It's not like you were saying, you gave me a nice prop there. Like, I make food and it looks like super easy and super good. And seriously, anybody and everybody can do it.
Well, you do, but that's the thing about somebody who's learned to appreciate the importance of it. You almost assimilate that on. And now something else to add to that, though, and you mentioned it. Now Shelly sells it. I have nothing. I'm not getting any kind of kickback, anything like that for this show. But let me tell everybody listening something. Now listen, if you're listening, you know this already probably. If you don't, I'm going to sprinkle some shit on the top of the goldfish tank right now, okay? The money you spend on culinary equipment is probably the only money in the world that will give you returns without question. You buy the proper knives, they will serve you forever. You buy the proper pans, they will serve you forever. You have to take care of them. But good Lord Almighty, I think culinary equipment is one of, if not the only area that if you pay for the right equipment, you get what you pay for. And it really is true. And Pampered Chef, from what I've seen, along with others, I'm not going to mention them by name here for reasons, but every time I've touched something that has come from one of Shelly's shows, it's solid. It's a brick shit house. It doesn't go anywhere. Those, the little cupboard, okay, this is going to sound ridiculous. The 3-pack, the little cut boards, thin plastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the flexible cutting mats.
Okay, the only thing that I have ever destroyed one of those with is my cleaver doing whole chickens for frying. Now, It was a cleaver. It was a full-on drop. The other ones, still in place. So I can only imagine what any kind of cutware, any kind of pans, anything like that is going to hold up. But my point in saying all that is like, look, if you're ever going to spend good money on something, spend it on stuff that you cook with. I think that goes without saying. And every time I've seen Pampered Chef parties, it's always a good deal. So that said.
Well, and totally correct about that. And one of the reasons that I chose Pampered Chef, I mean, their opportunity was really too good to pass up, to start your own business. We like to say, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. We have a great support system from our company and from our upline directors and, team members. But, everybody eats. Everybody needs to eat. So it's like when I was thinking about doing something, like I said, I was no chef. I was not trained. But I was like, hey, I can learn some things and, I can do this. And now, jump ahead 11 years later and I mean, the kitchen is my favorite place in the house. I've totally renovated my kitchen. It doesn't help, Sean, right, that I have a design background, because everything has to look just so. So it's not just the food looking just so. It's the walls, it's the paint, it's
well, and see,
the tile.
with that background in mind, though, see, again, I'm going back to the humility. I'm going to rake you over the coals here. I'm calling Beta Sigma because that design background, you put a plate together well, people are going to eat forever. You slop shit on a plate, nobody wants it.
Yep.
And
yeah,
it could be the same food, but constructed differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I even beat myself up sometimes, even when I'm doing something as simple as cupcakes, to take somewhere or to share or whatnot. And people have told me I'm flat out ridiculous. You're ridiculous. These are beautiful. Like, stop it. So, it's just, and it's funny over the years, with the whole cooking thing and going out into people's homes and giving them tips. I mean, basic tips and just having a good laugh and enjoying good food and letting people know, about the opportunity and what it can provide. It can be seriously life-changing. Yeah. I mean, life-changing over food.
What else do we do as a hobby that affects us that internally? Like, nothing. I don't think there's anything else but food that affects us so, not to be, weird, but nose to tail. It affects us from point 1 to point 2.
Yep.
Like, it's everything.
Yeah, and, people love getting together, and like you said, I definitely agree, and not because I'm involved in the business, but I do agree that, you're going to have big-time returns when you take the time to invest in good tools.
Absolutely. Case in point, we have a Henkel set out in the kitchen. Henkel's knives, it was a 7-piece knife set that I purchased for Gret back in 2004. So 2004 to now, that's 11 years, and it was $125 back then. Coming up, but that's a lot. Now, I've since bought a sharpener. I sharpen knives at home.
Yep.
You sharpen them once a year.
Yep.
You steel them every time you use them. People forget that big, long, cylindrical, skinny metal thing that you scrape your knives on straightens out the blade a little bit. But if you do that every time you use your knives, you sharpen once a year. I'm 11 years in. They're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yep.
They stick around.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why when people even look at, certain tools of ours or the deep cover baker, for example, great piece of stoneware. And they look at the price tag of it. And of course, we have a generous, very generous host reward program. But, I even break it down for them. Like, folks, can we please think about this for a minute? Like, hello, if you took a family of 4 out for a casual dinner, not fancy per se, but casual dinner, you potentially, it would be the same cost as that, maybe a dinner and a half. You know what I mean? And you can use this thing every single day.
Yep.
It can do wonders for you.
Yep.
So in that aspect, I always, kid around at my shows too about who loves to cook, likes to cook, hates to cook, has to cook, because it's, I've had people seriously, Sean, be in my presence, and when I go around the room, they say, I'm just here for the food. Okay, cool. Do you ever eat pizza? Well, yeah. Do you ever eat ice cream? Yeah. I said, well, I have tools for all that.
Yep.
I said, so there's something here for everybody tonight.
It's gateways.
Seriously.
It's gateways. Slow but sure. And I honestly believe, I think everybody in their lives should at one point work 6 months front of the house in a restaurant and 6 months back of the house to understand cost per plate, to understand the economics of dinner. Because like you said, when you're talking about equipment, people balk at it, but they don't realize what they're paying for each plate when they go out to sit down. Now, going out's fine.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
getting people at the table, learning that it becomes this family activity too. I actually don't even know if you ever saw the video of Wesley mincing garlic with a 7-inch chef knife.
Nope, I don't think I have.
He destroyed it. He destroyed it. I showed Betty Fraser from Top Chef. I showed her the video, and she was speechless. She's like, "That's a 7-year-old kid?"
Mm-hmm.
But sure enough, but that's because he's in the kitchen, and he appreciates it, which is why I think you ask him what his favorite food is. He doesn't say pizza, chicken nuggets. He says scallops and brown butter sauce.
Well, there you go.
So there's so much to it. God.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, me personally, and just talking about, what I like to cook. I mean, I like to cook a variety of things, here at home. Definitely, like I said, I'm still baking. Although for me, I love to bake and give it away. It makes me happy. I know it seems kind of crazy, but people get so excited for like cake and cookies and cupcakes and especially where I work, I'm known for tandy cake and sticky buns hot out of the oven in the morning upon arrival at work. So, it makes people happy. They're happy makes me happy. So, it's just, I guess it's kind of strange, but, I definitely say that the whole baking end of things is probably my passion. My true passion.
It's an act of love.
Yeah. It's certainly something, like I said, long ago, I've been exposed to this. But, definitely growing up, it was more pies and homemade rolled crust and all this. And I'm not really big on making pies. Don't really have that mastered yet. Not sure that I will get that mastered, but, I definitely kind of went a different angle. And I think it's more the artsy background. You know what I mean? I'm very visual, always looking at how my food looks, how my baked goods look, how my kitchen looks. So, it all kind of runs together a little bit.
Right on. So, all right, so let's pull back from the Pampered Chef overview and get back to where it is you are now. And granted, you're still at the Pampered Chef, very much a part of your life. But culinarily, just overall, Shelly Lee, even if we can, kind of sidebar the Pampered Chef for a minute, where do you, when you cook, when you're really in that pocket, in the kitchen, nothing else exists, you're in that zone, where do you pull your inspiration from when you're cooking?
That's a good question. When I'm preparing more so meals we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Dinner,
Meals.
Pulling together dinner, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, some of the things, like I alluded to before, some of the things I do make that I've had for years. But as far as my inspiration, I mean, I don't know if this is sad to say or not, but I do a lot of looking online of food as well. I don't have a lot of time. You're talking Top Chef and some of these other shows. I don't have a lot of time to sit and watch those, although they might become an inspiration as to what they're making. But I look a lot on Pinterest, to be quite honest. I'm looking on Pinterest. I'm seeing what I have in the fridge and how I can, not so much consult online for that, but, what do I have in my fridge? What is at my fingertips? What can I make, right? That's still going to be, relatively healthy, taste good, and I can, put things together somewhat quickly. It's not going to be an all-night venture, but it's still going to be, good to sit down and eat it. So, I would just say, as far as inspiration, I don't know. Some other people that I'm exposed to, perhaps them, but, I also, like I said, read a lot online. I'm looking a lot online. And I just kind of dabble sometimes. Sometimes I don't even have a recipe. I mean, do other people do that? I'm sure. I mean, it's like, hey, I got this.
See, there's the humility again. No, I'm cutting you right there. There's the humility. Nobody does that, Shelly Lee. You do it, and you make it look good. So, there. Have that compliment and like it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Pinterest has kind of created this culinary open source environment that's never existed before. Social media in general, fine, that's one thing. I mean, hell, we have podcasts centered around foodies, so there's something there. But Pinterest, I think, was a breeding ground for, hey, what can I do for my kid's 3rd birthday who likes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Correct.
Wow, there's thousands of pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's quick. It's a quick resource. And you can type in, like you said, keywords, and you can boom. It's
Done.
like you got all these hits. So, but yeah, I mean, I totally would say that, working and cooking and, I don't have a lot of extra time. I'm sure I'm like a lot of folks out there. You know what I mean? You're just, back to back, while I'm not running kids like you guys are, but it's like, we're living life in the fast lane, right? But we still need to eat and try and eat well, and try not to pay $1 million, to put dinner on the table. So,
right.
And so, yeah, like, it is true. Sometimes I just pull out stuff out of the fridge and throw it together in a piece of cookware, or throw it together and put it in the microwave in a stone, or whatever it may be.
Right.
So yeah.
Go Pinterest. We love Pinterest.
Yeah.
So over the years now with the Pinterest, taking hold, and obviously, you having a considerable length of time with Pampered Chef, what would you say you personally has been one of your greatest creations?
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That's a tough question, Sean. Greatest concoction or greatest thing I've put together? Well, I can't really think of one in particular. I mean, I'm fortunate now that I have somebody in my life who thinks everything I make is fantastic. Ooh, it's super good. So
I have a feeling if somebody didn't think that, you might have to get their tongue assessed. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of have me at a loss on that one. I can't think of anything that has been superb and stood out amongst the rest. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. Maybe it's getting late for me. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not really sure on that question. I mean, I made a dish the other night. It was a recipe, but I kind of doctored it up a bit, and it was just a chicken dish, but the comment that I got was, "Ooh, there's so many different flavors." Like, "Ooh, I love this."
Yes.
Because it had everything from sautéed mushrooms and onions to it had cream cheese and chicken stock and fresh spinach and artichokes and garlic and tomatoes. And, it was just kind of all thrown together, and the response was huge, huge.
Yeah.
More so than I thought myself. But it was just so many flavors and tastes coming at you at once that it just made it really good. So there's an example.
There you go. And
that's just recent, and that was well received. So
the humility continues. All right, fine. I'll give you that one. Fine. Recent and well received. That's good. So you're going out to homes, you're doing shows and everything, and so clearly you have your finger on the pulse of culinary, if not the reusing of foam, reduction of truffle, butter, and blah, blah. Yeah, not necessarily there, but clearly you have a feel for trends. What do you think is coming up as the next big thing in food?
Well, so one of the things that I think is trending right now has started maybe within the last year and continues is the whole idea of farm to table. Have we talked about this on the podcast before? Farm to table?
And actually, speaking of farm to table, not to foreshadow too much, but Shelly Lee has given me an opportunity here. Episode number 19 is going to be the champion of Top Chef Season 5, Hosea Rosenberg, who is specializing in farm to table now. So super stoked for that. But for those who are currently unaware, what exactly is farm to table, Shelly?
So farm to table, we launched a whole gardening collection, and basically it just wraps itself around the idea of, farming, farmers markets, growing your own, having a garden, having a raised garden for those maybe who don't have lawns or backyards or live in the city or whatever it may be. And I can't think of the percentage, Sean, but we were presented with some materials, and the percentage was astounding to me. Like, how many people grow their own produce and or shop farmers markets, produce markets on a regular basis. I mean, it was huge. Huge how many people have gardens at home and are doing their own thing. So with that, I say, I would definitely say I think we're into it already, but I still think there's more to come with that. That whole idea of farm to table and bringing that food right onto your table for dinner.
Yeah, I definitely think it's still in its infancy at best.
Oh, yeah.
But what a beautiful movement to be taking hold. Like, even if, like right now, restaurants can essentially, not to be shady about it, they can source 5% of their materials from a local farm and consider themselves to be farm to table. Let's be honest. They can do that.
Yeah.
Hopefully there comes a time very soon that percentage goes up by 50%, 75%. That would be phenomenal. That would be awesome.
Right.
But yeah, farm to table, super, just people being interested. And I think going back to what you said, that Pinterest is a good inspiration point. Well, food itself as an art now is transparent. You can see where your food's being prepared. You can see where it's come from. I think people have an interest in that now.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Farm to table. You heard it here, folks.
Farm to table.
All right. So
awesome.
With that said, let's get into the afters. Let's dip into the weird end of the pool, if you will. And I know you've got an early day of it, so we'll wrap here shortly. But, Shell, I'm standing in your kitchen. What music and or sounds do I hear if I'm cooking alongside of you?
Oh, geez. Lots. So, gosh, I could have music on at any time, and I'll tell you, Sean, it could be a wide range of things, but most likely you're going to hear things such as upbeat, dance, disco, that type of genre of music, not so much, something that's definitely lower key or instrumental or anything like that. I'm definitely high energy, right? High energy.
Right. I've heard things.
Yeah. So the other sounds you might hear are certainly things like meat or whatever, perhaps cooking on top of the stove. Mm-hmm. And, well, you'd be smelling it too. The awesome aroma from all of that.
Which, I'm sorry, there's not a better sound than when a room temp steak hits the searing hot cast iron.
Yep.
It doesn't get better.
Right. So, and unfortunately, along with the music and the meat and everything else, it would probably be me singing. So let's just call it what it is.
All right. We like it. A musical serenade. We'll take it.
That's the main things you're going to probably hear coming out of my kitchen.
Now let me ask the follow-up question that everybody gets a little nervous when they answer. Are you a cusser? Be honest.
Little bit.
Little bit?
Little bit.
If we went movie rating scale.
Movie rating scale, I'm probably PG.
All right. Okay. All right,
I'm not too terribly bad.
Oh, we'll take it. We'll take it. Gret will
Yeah,
tell
and anybody who's listening out there, sorry.
Nope. I always say Gret will tell you flat out. I'm, NC-17 style. Like, if we're in the weeds, send the kids downstairs to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's the safest thing possible. I don't know what it is, but so she is a saint.
I can tell you, Sean, that I get definitely more intense if I'm doing a cake. Because if I have to concentrate, like I don't want anybody around me, nobody talking to me, because I stress myself out because I'm too hard on myself at times, which I think we all are, when we're working on something that's, super important to us, trying to make an impact, trying to make a statement. So, at times I would say that's probably when I get the most stressed, if you will, and the kitchen is typically wrapped around something design related when I'm trying to pull something off like that.
Right. I hear you. But PG, you heard it here.
Yeah, we'll say PG. Let's keep it clean tonight.
Right on. Hey, listen, you're going to be stranded on a deserted island. And you're only allowed to take 3 foods or food supplies with you. What would they be and why?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. 3 foods, and that's all I have.
That's it?
Oh, I shouldn't even admit some of this stuff.
Yes, you should. Infinite supply, by the way. When you name the food, it is infinite. Like, it would never run out.
Oh. Well, one of the things that I absolutely love, and perhaps some people don't consider it a food, to me it's a food group, it would have to be something wrapped around chocolate and peanut butter because it's heaven to me. I don't care if it's a Reese's. I don't care if it's something I made. So I don't know if I have to count that as 2, chocolate and peanut butter. If I have to count it as 2, so be it. But they go perfect together in my world. So it would have to be that. Oh, gosh. What else would I take with me? There's so many things I like. Oh, gosh. You're stumping me on this one, too. Well, and if I was on an island on its infinite amount.
Yep. Never run out.
Never run out. Jeez. Well, I know there's things I probably should say, like healthy choices.
Oh, hell no. Come on.
Fruits and vegetables.
Come on. You know there's going to be trees. Let it go.
Yeah. So I'm going more the snack way. We won't go so much the food way with me tonight. I'm going more the snack way. Another snack item that would be fabulous if I, God forbid, was stranded would be Middleswarth chips. Okay?
Hell yes!
Local.
Yes!
I'm local, and I love the Middleswarth chips. So for those who are listening all over the country, maybe at some point, you got to check it out. Go online and order yourself a bag. You won't go wrong.
They're worth it. My wife will tell you we're wrong, that she loves Utz, but screw Utz. Middleswarth any day.
Middleswarth chips, yeah. So I'd have to take some chips. I'd have to take some chocolate. And, what else would I want to take? Gosh. And that's like, I don't know. I'm half tempted to say the buckwheat cakes because, man, they're good. I could probably live on those too.
There you go. Buckwheat cakes.
So let's just tie that in, since I talked about those earlier tonight.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. Hey, and
speaking of which, not to interrupt you, Sean, but do you know what today is? March 23rd.
Besides my loving and amazing father's birthday, happy birthday, Father, I'm unaware that there's any other holiday today because I was just so overwhelmed with love for my father.
Well, today is actually, yes, happy birthday, Pat. It's Pat, right?
Yeah. Wow, damn, you're good. Yes.
Yeah. It's National Chip and Dip Day.
Is it?
Yeah,
for
real. National Chip and Dip Day. So let me ask you, Sean, since we're talking about the Middleswarth.
Yes.
Is that your favorite chip?
Negative.
What is your favorite chip?
I can't go into that.
Oh, all right. Well, forget it. How about your favorite dip? Do you have a
Oh,
favorite?
my favorite dip, hands down, bacon horseradish, hell of a good.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, it's so ghetto. $2 on sale, no questions asked. But it doesn't matter if it's 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning. It loves you just the same.
Well, there you go. I myself enjoy more, although I said I love the Middleswarth. I do love the Middleswarth, but my favorite dip probably is spinach and artichoke dip, which chased with a tortilla chip is mighty fine. So that is my favorite. So I just had to bring that into our conversation since it is National Chip and Dip Day.
It is Chip and Dip Day.
I did not want to forget to mention that.
Oh, I love it. I have an excuse now to just go and indulge myself after this.
There you go.
Not like I needed one to begin with. So, hey, this whole podcast, the interview format, I should say, is inspired by an author by the name of Melanie Dunea. And she wrote 2 books, My Last Supper and The Next Course. Have you heard of either?
I have not, but I want to pick them up.
So each book is basically a coffee table book with 50 famous chefs, cool artsy picture, and the same 5 questions asked of each. Listen, you're shipping out in the morning, you're done for, what's your last meal going to be? And so, Shelly Lee, I ask you,
what's my last meal?
If you were going to shuffle off the mortal coil, what would your last meal be?
Damn. I love too much.
I saved the hard ones for the end because I want to make you squirm.
Yeah. Oh, man. There's so much I love. You know what, Sean? When you break it down, I can be as basic as a good cheeseburger and fresh cut fries. Let's just call it what it is. Or, you know, I can love some crab cakes, nice, you know, petite sirloin, something like that. So if I had to choose my last meal on my way out, honestly, I'm going to side with the whole basics tonight and just keep it real. Let's give me a good cheeseburger, some fresh cut fries, some chocolate peanut butter, some kind of dessert. Actually, chocolate cake with peanut butter frosting.
Nice.
And it has to be like triple layer cake with, you know, the frosting in between. So, yeah, I would say that, you know, I'm just a regular kind of gal, and I love all kinds of food. So let's just put that out there. But, you know, I'm keeping it basic tonight for you.
How's that burger being done? How are you ordering it?
I like my burger no pink. I like it cooked. I don't like it, you know, scorched or charred.
Right.
But I like it cooked. I like lots of cheese. It'd be nice to have some crisp bacon on it as well.
Right on.
And then doctored up, you know, with all kinds of things. Mayonnaise, ketchup, mustard, lettuce.
Perfect.
Onion straws. Throw it all on.
Yes.
It's all good.
Put the crab cake on top of it, too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yes.
And then the fries with extra vinegar.
Oof.
Some salt and lots of ketchup.
Spoken like a true PA girl right there.
Yep.
All right. And finally, Shelly, what is food to you in one single word?
Oh, boy. Food in one word. Heaven.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah. I love food. I love the kitchen. I love talking about food. I love cooking and baking and, you know, what can I say? I'm a spoon shaker.
You're a spoon shaker. I love it. I love it. Perfect. I couldn't possibly rap any better. Well, hey, Shell, that is the interview. I want to thank you again and again for taking the time this evening to be with us.
Yep, thank you
You're
for the
so
opportunity.
very welcome. And that's pamperedchef.biz/Shelly Lee, Shelly with an Y-L-E-E. Any other things we can plug for you this evening?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right, you got it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Episode number 18. My guest has been Shelly Lee of Pampered Chef, pamperedchef.biz/Shelly Lee. Thank you so much for being here this evening. My producer has been Johnny Robinson, the Reverend Johnny Lemuria. Check out his podcast, Cinematic Pig's Feet. And me, Sean Rossler, as always, your host, your guide to all things culinary. Be sure to check out episode 19 coming soon with the champion of Top Chef Season 5, Chef Hosea Rosenberg of Black Lily Market. It's going to be awesome. Check it out and stay tuned.